Hello, welcome to everyone to the Penal Arts and Wellbeing Conference. This is going to be 2 hours of, welcome everyone to the Penal Arts and Wellbeing Conference. It's going to be 2 hours of interesting and varied presentations, which I hope you will enjoy, followed by a visit to a virtual exhibition afterwards. The Unlocked programme was a 3-year programme run by a partnership of organisations. The Leicester Partnership NHS Trust spearheaded the programme, and Soft Touch Arts undertook the face-to-face work. We also worked in partnership with De Montfort University and Nottingham Trent University to do related research into the project, which you'll hear about later on in the programme. So Soft Touch Arts have been operating in Leicester for 35 years, and throughout that period we've undertaken work in mainly in Glen Parva Young Offenders Institute, and then when that closed down in 2017 we moved to undertaking arts and music activities in HMP Leicester, and then this programme has expanded that out beyond there as well. So it's always been an integral part of the work that we do. We started the Unlock programme in 2018, and the plan, all the best plans in prison don't necessarily happen as you expect them to. The plan was to work for 3 years with people inside HMS prison, plus people serving a sentence in the community, and produce art exhibitions at the end of each of the 3 years at our place and in the main museum across the road, what's now called the Leicester Museum. Everything went swimmingly for year one. We worked in the prison, we worked with people in the community, and we produced an exhibition that got visited by about, I think it was 10,000 people. Year two, we struck a bit of a problem, which was that there was no space to work in HMP Leicester anymore. It's a very crowded.
Hello. Oh, I think we've lost Sally, everyone. Oh, I'm so sorry about that. I'll probably finish what Sally was saying. Yes, so year two of the project, what Sally was probably going to say was that they had to, I suppose, review their delivery of the project, and their work was extended to HMP Stocken as well. And obviously year three, COVID hit, so it made it really, really challenging. And we're going to hear a little bit more from the sort of lead artists and the artists themselves about that journey. What's also distinctive is that what we're talking about is that the delivery, and I think one of the USPs for the Unlocked programme is that it delivered both inside prisons but also in community settings based at Soft Touch HQ in the city of Leicester. And so there were aspirations to transfer obviously work that's done in prisons back into the community, and some of the tensions around that. And so the exhibitions that Sally was describing, here she is. I was just filling the space, Sally, and I explained about year two and year three, and I was about to talk about the exhibitions being a collection of the work that you did with HMP Leicester, HMP Stocken, and the people working in community settings. That's right, isn't it?
That's right. Yeah.
Thanks
for jumping in. I don't know what we're all having a internet.
Oh, she's gone again. It's me. Oh, you poor people. So yeah, and I think what's really interesting for you guys out there is to listen to the journey of soft touch arts, and I think learn about both good practice and the impact that it has on both the practitioners and obviously the artists who are within the criminal justice system. And we're going to be hearing from them as well. If I'll just I'm sad to report, because of technology issues today, Ralph Labrowski was going to chair this event. Bless him. And he's having internet problems. He was streaming live from HMP Hewell, and the connection's terrible today. I know he's really gutted that he couldn't log in. So I've stepped in at the last minute to chair the session. So hopefully you will won't be too disappointed not to see Ralph. And I know I am. He's a great speaker and a big champion of arts in penal settings. The focus is also on well-being, and there's much being talked about the impact that arts, or the practice of arts, has on well-being, and we'll be touching upon that today, particularly when we talk about the research and the kind of models that we've drawn on. And we worked in partnership as well with the PCT in Leicestershire and then the NHS as well. What I'm going to do is just give you a highlight of what we're going to be talking about today, and you're going to be hearing from both practitioners and researchers and participants, etc., etc. It's going to be a lively event, followed by an amazing exhibition. I know the guys have been preparing this and the work that's gone into that, even though we're doing it virtually for you out there. Without further ado, I'll just run through what's going to happen. You would have heard from Ralph, and I was really going to be interested to hear what he had to say. Hopefully, he's managed to log in and at least view this. So we miss you, Ralph, but we know you're here in spirit. The first session is I'm going to introduce Kieran Walsh, the lead artist at Soft Touch, and Lisa Selby, principal. Senior lecturer in fine art at Nottingham Trent University, and they're going to give us some insights into practice, and we're going to have quick questions and answers. So please do log your questions and comments as you're watching, and I will feed these back to the participants as chair. Then you're going to hear from myself and my colleagues, Dr. Susie Atherton from the University of Gloucestershire and Dr. Ben Carpenter van Barthold from the Nottingham Trent University, and we're going to present some of the findings from the research that we've done over the last 3 years. Then we're going to hear from Ashley and again Kieran, and talking about the lived experience of participating in creative arts in prison settings. And then we're going to be hearing from Tim Sawyers about the impact of health and wellbeing as well. And then we're going to round up with the discussion from a Q&A session. So that's your chance as an audience to throw your questions to a panel, including myself, Simon Bland, who's been instrumental in working with the prison and also Soft Touch Arts, Jermaine, Lisa Selby and Kieran again. Ben is going to chair that Q&A, and then we'll invite you to come to the virtual exhibition that Kieran and colleagues are going to lead. Okay, so yes, please put your questions to us. We want a lively discussion. It's really important that we hear from you. And as you will note, it's been an important, as you will hear, it's an important part to how Soft Touch operates. They work closely to feedback, and as one of the lead researchers on the project, we were heavily involved in discussion and development throughout. So without further ado, can I welcome Kieran and Lisa to hear about the practice? I will be quiet now. I'll turn my mic off. Hello, both.
Thanks, Victoria. Kieran, do you want to start outlining the project?
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. Thanks for joining us, everyone. We're just going to sort of explain a little bit about our role within this this project and what we have experienced and the kind of ways that we work and the way that we deliver projects, or try to the best of our ability. It's a very things can change very quickly within the kind of prison environment when you're delivering these sorts of projects. So I'll talk a bit about the way that we've had to adapt and become flexible to to get things going. So just to explain who I am, I'm one of the lead art workers for Soft Touch Arts. I've been delivering projects in HMP Leicester and a few other places for the last for quite a few years, and in that time we have had various exhibitions and events and engaged a lot of people, some of whom you're going to get to meet in a bit, which I think will be a very important and very interesting part of this this discussion today, because really it's about the process that they've been through and how this what we deliver has engaged them and helped them to improve their own mental health and well-being. So that's kind of an overview of what bear with me 1 second. So that's pretty much what we're going to be looking at. So just to explain how things work, and then Lisa, you could sort of say how you fit into this project. We, prior to the lockdown and everything that's happened with the pandemic, our normal routine would be to go into HMP Leicester, for example, on a weekly basis. We would arrive with some materials. Sometimes we would have things that we'd already store at the prison, or sometimes we'd bring things with us depending on what we decided to do. We tend to keep things very unscripted, because within that kind of environment there are people of all sorts of abilities and interests, and it's much easier to go in and kind of assess what people like, what they want to do, and then base the projects around that as a starting point. There are lots of simple activities that we can do that have been very popular, things like making cards, making t-shirt designs, making things that people can send out to friends and families, which is, it's a very important means of communication. So if people are able to make something that they feel proud of, and then share it with somebody who is on the outside, then that's a really important part of the communication process. So Lisa, if you want to say a little bit about what you've been doing as part of this.
Yeah, hi everyone, my name is Lisa Selby, Senior Lecturer in Fine Art at Nottingham Trent University. My research revolves around conversation and connection through creativity, especially in prisons. And I came into this project with Victoria looking at these conversations that people can have, and how art can help them through some really difficult times. So I became involved in the project where we began painting murals in healthcare, and thinking about well-being in a sense, and getting people together, seeing who's interested, getting people out of their cells, and a big part of this is to do with process, not just the process of the outcome, but the talking, the connecting, the trust that they can gain from us, and also in connection with each other. And I have a different level of conversation with them because my partner was in prison, and I supported him through a sentence, and so I understand where they're coming from. So we're already on this different level, and I was pretty open about that experience. And yeah, it was fun. I'd been into a prison before, just a couple of times. So to go in on a regular basis and help people to share their experiences with each other. I was talking to Kieran about, you know, when you're walking and having conversations, or when you're making, when you're driving and having those conversations, it's not like you're sat opposite someone on a table, and there aren't those awkward moments. So there was this moment in healthcare where I was painting a mural with someone who was incarcerated. He was painting a Chesterfield sofa, and I was painting a fireplace, not a wood burner one like this. And then we had these conversations about hope and the other things that he's making and sharing with people, and his experiences at school, and how he thought he was like the man, the creative one that people came to. And this became really important to us, although it was difficult hanging on to the same people. Kieran?
Yeah, that's one of the difficulties of working in somewhere that's also a remand prison, because people can be really involved in a project that's going, you know, it's a kind of a longer term thing, like a mural project, and sometimes literally right in the middle of the session, officers will come and get them, and they'll be sent, you know, shipped out to another prison, and we won't see them again for a very long time. So that can be frustrating for everyone. But the point that Lisa was making about the conversations that happen, that's a key part of what we do. So a lot of the time, or if we're lucky, we'll have a space that's away from the main wing, although we have delivered projects on the wing, which has its own ups and downs. But it means that people feel part of a group that they identify with. So they know that on a Monday or Tuesday or whenever it is that we come in, that's their time to, you know, to do something different, to do a project that might not be something that they would be able to do on a normal basis, and to have conversations with each other, with us, that they might not normally have the chance or feel comfortable speaking about. So if you've got a group that's engaged in an activity, even just a simple drawing activity, it's a really good starting point for conversation to flow. And that also is useful when you've got other staff, particularly prison staff there, who might normally have a different relationship with the people in the group. So they kind of get drawn into quite often into the actual creative activities themselves, which is a brilliant thing to see, because everybody's all working together, and it's a very kind of a lot more laid back atmosphere, and people tend to feel more comfortable. We know that we have been reported back from staff that people have come back from doing these sessions in a much more relaxed and calm state than they had been prior to them coming to join in. So that's another benefit that we've noticed of it. Yeah, it tends to vary from place to place what we do. Occasionally there will be building up to an exhibition, so people know that they've got something that they're going to work towards, and it's kind of giving people a goal and something that they can think about over a longer period of time, rather than just producing something quickly each week. Lisa was talking about the mural that we painted. That's something that's quite happens quite a lot in prisons, and it's one that we did one in the middle of HMP Leicester, which was a kind of a free flow area where lots of people walked past, so people could see what the artists were painting, and they were having conversations and, you know, sort of really, you know, boosting each other's confidence, which was lovely to see, because, you know, people were being recognised as artists and as, you know, not just this guy that they know from the wing. They recognise them as, you know, being part of this this project and showing their own skills. And these guys are, you know, there's some real talent that we've come across, which you'll see more of later. Lisa, did you want to say anything about that?
There's something about this collaborative process that even if works are being individually made, that they come together in discussion. And there was this beautiful moment actually in HMP Stolken where everyone was around the table and we discussed what was going to happen, what did they want to do, thinking about working in that collaborative way. And when they came up with this idea of forming this cell, and one in a bed in it and one in a toilet in it and one in a sink, you know, our minds are going over like, how are we actually going to do this, get a bed out of the prison and talk about, you know, it's for art, you know. And we're just really impressed. These are people not at art school, and they're coming out with these pieces that look like their degree show quality or beyond. And yeah, they just work together in such a intimate way, and people that don't usually get on started to get on and take on each other's ideas and be supportive, and they were ambitious ideas, and that's all to do with the trust that they build throughout those projects. And yeah, I was so impressed. I was buzzing from seeing them get so excited about making art and building relationships with each other. So yeah, and then also there's then their art is also photographed and sent back to the prison, and there's often a notice board or put up in the art room of documentation of the work outside of the prison as well, so it doesn't just stop at the work goes out and then they don't see it. We always make sure that they see their work and they feel proud of what they've achieved.
Yeah, just and to talk a bit more about the facilities or lack of facilities that, you know, can often happen when you turn up, because somewhere like HMP Leicester, there's not much space to do things. You know, there's dedicated classrooms, but they are generally in use. So we've had to be very flexible with the way that we operate. So sometimes that involves literally setting up on the wing as everybody's released from their cells, which initially was a bit daunting because we had, you know, potentially hundreds of people, most of whom we'd never met, wandering around and wandering up to us and, you know, saying, what are you doing? But it turned out to be a really, really good way to meet some of the people that wouldn't have necessarily joined the education art class or didn't really consider themselves to be creative, because they would, you know, and quite often they would not really sort of identify themselves with that sort of project. But so what we had to do is kind of present it in a very kind of laid back way, and do activities that meant that people could make something good really quickly. And it was a really good way to engage people that we wouldn't have expected to meet. And it was great to see some of the people who took part in that then kind of taking ownership of the group, and, you know, they would be the ones that would be going around rounding up all the other guys ready for the session for the next week. And, you know, if we needed to get anything done or photocopied, or, you know, they needed to go and speak to an officer, they dash off and do it, get it sorted and come back. And, you know, when at the start of this, when we didn't have keys and we couldn't get around, that was hugely helpful. We felt that relationship, that kind of trust that we had in each other, is something that's a really, really big part of this kind of work. And And we have continued to be in contact with a lot of the people that we've been involved in. Unfortunately, at the moment, the difficulty is that we are not able to get into HMP Leicester. I mean, there are plans to do so, but it's been, because of the lockdown, it's been very, very difficult to do things the way that we had previously. So we've been suggesting project ideas and sending things in that people can do. We've also had people sending artwork out to us once they've got our address, which is something that we can, it's a process we can use then to let them know that we will be able to exhibit the work, and some of it actually is in the exhibition today. It's stuff that's recently been sent to us by people that I haven't actually even met yet.
Yeah, and I think that a big part of this also, when we were allowed into the prison, was that we were a part of this process. It wasn't we're standing at the front of a room going, you know, this is what you have to do, this is how you do it. We're there, paintbrush in hand, doing things alongside people, helping people to make those decisions. So any hierarchy in that sense is kind of broken down. We're in this with you, let's do it.
Mm.
Thanks, guys. We're running out of time, and I'm sure this discussion will be extended towards the end of the session. We've had a comment from Kamla. Interesting to hear this. She's a project manager at a Leicester-based grassroots community group, Celebrate Our Similarities. And looking to develop a memorandum of understanding with DMU. I think in terms of those relationships, because you was the sort of lead artist, Kieran, about the other relationships that you had to have. It wasn't just with the artists themselves. What could you say something about relationships with staff, with the prison, with probation, all that sort of stuff? In terms of your practice, you know, there was lots of things you had to manage, not just the sort of face-to-face stuff, but that bigger picture stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's crucial to make sure that you've got people on your side when you're doing this kind of project, because you know, if you don't know what you're doing and you don't know the processes and you know what's the protocols of the prison, you can end up annoying a lot of people very quickly, and you could quite easily have your plug pulled on what you're doing. So it's what we find is to make sure that you get you know, as somebody who's coming from the outside into that environment, make sure people know what you're doing. You know, to speak to prison officers, explain, this is, you know, I'm going to be setting up over there, we're going to be using these materials, is that okay? Occasionally they will have to run things by security, or, you know, you'll have to have some conversations about what is and what isn't acceptable, because there are things that people might not even think about or consider that could be a major security breach, and, you know, it could end up making your life and other people's lives really difficult really quickly. But we found that people have been very receptive to what we've been doing, very helpful. Once people understood who we were and what we were doing, I think it was kind of welcomed almost, because it was, you know, on some sessions we're actually taking big groups away off the wing to somewhere else where we're particularly now that we're radio trained and we have keys and, you know, can escort people. It's just one less stress for people who are currently on the wing, particularly when there's people milling about who don't normally do anything. You know, it's giving them something to do, something meaningful. So people tend to you know, respond very well to that, and through what we found is that you start to network quickly with the people who are the most useful within, you know, within the prison environment, and then they find out what you're doing and they build it into, you know, to other things. So the mental health team, mental health workers we've done a lot of work with them, you know, they're often able to identify people or groups that we hadn't met, and they'll take us to meet them. So, you know, that's a really good partnership. It's a great way to work.
Yeah. Okay, so what about Lisa? You might have a view on obviously coming from an arts background as well, about the role of the public exhibitions for these people in the sort of penal landscape. What do you think the role is there? Have you got some views on that in relation to your practice as an artist? You know, it's sort of it's bread and butter, isn't it, to artists to take part in exhibitions? But this is quite different, isn't it? What have you got any thoughts or reflections on the role of exhibitions, and plus the feedback from the public?
Yeah, well, I think a lot of the people who are in prison, the artists, have felt unseen and unheard. They feel cut off from the outside world from the moment they go into the prison van. They've got that blacked out window where no people can't see them anymore from that point onwards. So to be able to have a voice, you know, they don't. Well, hopefully they don't have mobile phones. They don't have mobile phones. They don't have other ways of communicating with people other than their loved ones through emails and the phone. So this is a chance for them to be seen and to be heard and to build themselves up. It's a chance to collaboratively come together in an exhibition. It's saying you are accepted, you are good at this, you know, the thing that you're doing now to fill your time maybe initially is good, and we want to see it. And this can become part of your portfolio. You are now an exhibiting artist in this place. And that can go onto your CV, and this is really important. And this is how we all build it up as artists, a little step at a time. And to be able to provide these opportunities for people is essential because it gives them hope, and that's key for their well too and their future.
Yeah. Just to end then, Kieran, thank you, Lisa. What's the difference between what you do and an art class?
Well, some of the things we do are probably the same in terms of the basic skills of drawing and things like that. But what we try not to do is to put pressure, get people to be involved in things that they might feel are becoming increasingly difficult. So sometimes within the art class, it's quite a, you know, they've got a curriculum that's quite prescribed, and you might have somebody who considers themselves to be creative but doesn't particularly want to do that, go down that route. So we're able to sort of provide that sort of more free sort of means of expressing themselves. So it might be that they come up with an idea to make something or design something that we can then go away and get some things printed out for them, or maybe suggest ideas and maybe get materials that they might not be able to access normally in an art class. And sometimes people just want to dip in and out, so they want to just come for one session or maybe a few sessions and then go and do something else for a few weeks, whereas that's a lot more difficult if you're you know, if you're actually part of the education class. And also importantly, if you don't turn up to one of our sessions, you don't get in trouble. So you know, if you're named down for an education class and you don't turn up for it, there's consequences for it, and we don't that's not something that interests us.
That's really helpful, and I'm sure people that are tuning in today and watchers later on. I think in terms of the way in which you've facilitated this programme is distinctive and important to what we're going to talk about next, which is some of the sort of findings from the research that kind of, I think, pick up on exactly what you say in the foundations of your practice and what you do, and I think credit to you guys is that you probably do a lot more than what you've described in this very short time around, you know, negotiating, but also the pastoral care that's been involved in your work as well, and you know, it doesn't just stop at the art. It's about supporting these individuals and getting their lives on track, which I'm very aware that you are also involved in. So thank you both. I'll hear from you later. The next session we've got is talking about the research. So if I can welcome Susie and Ben to the floor. Hello, Susie. Hello, Ben, my lovely colleagues.
Hi there.
Hi. So we're going to run through a whistle-stop tour of our research, and we're going to focus on the theme of hope. It was so evident in our research findings. I will begin and introduce as the sort of research project. Susie then will talk about the findings, and Ben will talk about the next steps and our deeper reflections around the context of penal arts more broadly, and arts as a process rather than an outcome. So we need the slides up. Here we go. Fantastic. So yeah, the role of hope in the journey of desistance. It's a collaboration, this analysis and projects, a collaboration across 3 universities. I'm really pleased to be involved with other academics outside my own discipline. I'm a sociologist. I think Susie would describe herself as a criminologist, and Ben as a fine artist. So as you've already heard, the sort of practice and the delivery of the Soft Touch Arts project Unlocked, its aims and its ethos was about facilitation and engagement, and that's so important to, I think, the responses as a result of those underpinning practices. So we're going to talk about that, the relationships that Kieran has so lovely touched upon, and the role of the practitioner and the artist. But importantly, the narratives of the participants show this importance and value in co-creation. So it's not just an outcome. So, and its relationship in the criminal justice context. And as I said, the work continues to evolve, and the relationships and the role that arts has on penal reform more broadly. You know, this is a relatively small project, but what impact may it have on penal reform? Okay, next slide. Okay, so our research then, we were invited from day one, Ben and I, to work with Soft Touch, and given the sort of small numbers of participants over the 3 years, we believed that there was value in not just measuring hard outcomes. We wanted the qualitative details. So we opted for interviews with people experiencing the project, but also the key staff and stakeholders. They were also included in that journey. Ben and I were heavily involved with Soft Touch in monthly conversations, and we'd get updated about what the project was doing. That was really helpful, but also sort of giving our responses from a research perspective, almost like a sort of social action model. The framework that we deployed, which will be of use to people listening out there about how do you research outcomes here, and those qualitative outcomes, we drew upon the CHIME model, which is an acronym I'll go through in a minute, Leamy et al. 2011. It's used and has been accredited, I suppose, as an approved model for measuring well-being, in particularly in recovery orientated research and practice environments. And the acronym stands for connectedness, so this idea of relationships, hope and optimism, which we're really going to drill into, identity, meaning in life, and empowerment. And so our aims as researcher was to document the different phases that the artists move through, and like doing any research in penal settings, it wasn't straightforward. People would disappear, or you'd turn up to the prison and they'd be locked down, or people didn't want to speak, or they did want to speak, but fundamentally we were interested in that bigger picture, that bigger journey of desistance. Next slide. Okay, there's a plethora of literature out there about arts, a long history of arts in prisons. Just to flag up, you know, some of the sort of benefits out there in terms of arts interventions, you know, increasing the ability to self-regulate people's emotions, for example, their own emotions, work collaboratively. Lots of music-based education, for example, and using that as a way of coping and co-creating something as well. We're very inspired by Graham and White's model of innovation in criminal justice, and we as researchers have asked our questions. Well, so what is the impact? Is something like soft touch merely ameliorating and just softening the pains of incarceration, or is it actually disrupting those pains of incarceration and triggering a journey towards desistance? We're also interested in and this was touched upon, that arts intervention has a wonderful ability to engage prisoners in activities that alleviate these pains of incarceration, but also at the same time advocating changes to themselves, but also changes to the environment. Lisa touched upon the mural that they were painting. You know, how does that change the prison environment? But also we have been reflective and re-examining the role of arts in prisons more broadly. Next slide, please. Okay, so we're going to focus on the theme of hope. Very, very significant. And what we're going to do is we've developed, I'm going to use the word anatomy of hope. So it's not just hope, but I think there are different forms of hope that we don't tend to see much in the literature. And the idea is that hope, why hope is so important, is that it enables that someone's agency, their identity, their personhood to flourish. And that's all related to having goals, even if it's in an hour's time, I'm going to do this. I've got the motivation to achieve this, or it may be tomorrow or next week, for example. So that role of hope is really important. And the problem is that imprisonment and community sanctions kind of interfere with life goals. It interrupts the life course. So if you eliminate hope, you're not going to get people to change. You're not going to get people to come out of prison, let's say, into the community to flourish. And there are, as we know, limited opportunities for people to do that. So something like the Unlock programme delivered by Soft Touch is a wonderful opportunity to eliminate or help to eliminate things like hopelessness, diminished self-efficacy and diminished optimism. Jason Waugh's work on immigration centres and this notion of hope and certitude, and prisons can deprive prisoners of certitude despite the routine being very fixed. You don't know what's going to happen next, and a loss of hope for the future. How can that be resurrected? Well, we will demonstrate that arts interventions does have a role for that. Okay, next slide.
Okay, thanks, Vic. I'll launch straight into some of the findings that we came up with. So really, I think the key things to say straight off is that the participant artists valued the ethos of the project. They absolutely recognised, exactly as Kieran said earlier, that it was not seeking to teach or instruct, but to facilitate and co-produce a very real shift from the formal social controls of the regime. And as you can see from this quote here, this artist saying that they'd never been in the situation of this prison where this has been on offer, where this element of choice was so important, and they'd never experienced this. The other benefits that we've identified in terms of valuing the project were to learn about different styles of art, including digital art. So very much using contemporary methods of producing art and tapping into people's own abilities and preferences. So they weren't just going to thinking, well, I don't know how to draw, I don't know how to paint. There are other ways of actually expressing their creativity. It is important to say as well that the prisoners would be referred to as artists. And so they'd have a complete change of identity within this setting. They wouldn't be spoken of as prisoners, they'd be spoken of as artists and referred to as artists. And again, it all kind of tapped into that shift from the day-to-day formal social controls. Hakim and Attell talk about this. They talk about two important elements: to have that safe space to do novel activities, and also to do things that have a very clear sense of purpose. So as Vic said, we are going to actually look at hope, different forms of hope. One of those was hope as self-care. All of the respondents in prison and community noted the value of this form of hope. And the quotes here that you can see, that the reference to feeling depressed and suicidal, that you want to get out, and the creative side helps you to actually feel relaxed for a few hours. So the process of being part of the arts project and the arts workshops would continue. And they would have that, it would sort of stave off those feelings of depression and suicidal feelings and thoughts. The people were described as carefree, friendly. It's for the hour or two with the arts class, it's relaxing, and they're encouraged to be creative. They're basically in a situation where they are encouraged to do what they want to do, to make their own choices, make their own decisions. And it's not, and it is a good way to kill time, but it's also something that leads to a sort of therapeutic relief to the monotonous prison regime. And so that creative outlet is very important, and relief was a key word that we kept seeing come up in the data of how important that was. So to continue this theme as hope as self-care, as War has said, hope is a protective feature, and it can be defined by the deprivation of this. And so when you have that, you trigger positive emotional and behavioural change. And again, one of the artists referred to this, that they're actually being helped to stay positive and helps their well-being, that they've learned to play the guitar, they had perhaps what they referred to as a closed mindset before, where they wouldn't feel that they would be able to do anything like this. They also referred to how they've changed in terms of their relationship with the staff, having a good rapport with the staff on the wing, lessening their feelings of anger towards the system. This was certainly something that we saw in the Good Vibrations research. There was a very clear measurement of levels of anger and a reduction in those levels of anger, and also in terms of the relationships people actually had with their fellow prisoners, but also with the staff involved. Obviously, this is a very important part of the desistance journey, to not only change identity, but also sustain that change, and to be able to then think positively about the future, be able to get engaged in things like sentence planning, and actually understand that's part of the process of their journey towards desistance. The reference here to having a lot of low times being in a single cell, and then realising that the value of working with people, the support you get, and it's more personalised, and a very, very clear shift of identity from a wing person to a person, to someone who's appreciated for their various different skills. So that leads us nicely into this idea of hope as aspiration. So the community setting was absolutely a place where we saw evidence of this. It was described as a creative place, and creative people will come. And this person describing how when they left, They realise how slave dead the mentality is when they're going back into society, referring really to the lack of creativity in a lot of people's lives. That we're all creative. We should all be doing something that taps into that, because it improves confidence and self-esteem. So absolutely, there's further research to be done to think about where else this can be applied in terms of helping people. Goal setting behaviour, again, Snyder et al.'s work is very important on this, recognising how important it is to have the agency to actually appreciate the importance of goal setting. And again, it does kind of remind us of Raymond White's forms of innovation, that amelioration and that aspiration was kind of amelioration of the harms of prison was so important to building then that aspiration. Thinking of things I could do, I have confidence, I feel more creative, it's calmed the beast in me. It gives you hopes and dreams and frees you from fears. And if you think about the prison setting, the prison atmosphere, the deprivation of certitude, the harms and pains we associate with prison, that could be a very, very important notion that actually something can give you a very different feeling about being within the prison setting. The distinctiveness of the project, Kieran and Lisa have referred to this earlier, and a quote reflects that very nicely. I've never been to a workshop like this before. It's amazing. Kindness, friendliness, and mentioned. This person observing how creative they are, making stuff, but also, again, reference to their emotions, reference to how they're actually feeling, not getting into any more trouble, being safe. Not had the police knocking on their door, not having that constant threat and uncertainty, and understanding as well that they wanted to think about life beyond probation and having an impact on the world. And as Vic said earlier, that's such an important and crucial part of the desistance journey, is that process of internal change, that process of a different self-identity, and maturation, but also knowing that the conditions, there's a place and a space they can go where they can sustain that and maintain that. So essentially the project helps disrupt those negative patterns of self-identity, and we keep seeing hope is serving as a crucial mechanism for transformation among the artists. And then again, as a mechanism for change after release. People started to reporting that they felt positive about release, wanted to actually tap into that creativity after release and continue with these activities. And as a way of also diverting them from what this person described as the old social circles until I'm strong enough. So recognizing the value of the project in building emotional resilience and actually building confidence and being able to carry that around with them in different settings. The value based on the project is also propelled through hope and still through engagement and interaction. It's keeping me out of trouble, focusing on my skills. This person is now seeing what they were doing before as a skill, and as something that they can use as a creative outlet. And actually, they recognise the role of probation in their lives. They have to go, they'll keep going and engaging with it. But actually now they have something that makes them think about that future out of the criminal justice system. This is an example of some of the artwork and that one of the artists provided, but also we wanted to give you an example of the feedback, because whilst absolutely the role of the public exhibition is vital, and again this was found in Wilson et al.'s work on good vibrations, what I think is also distinct about the Soft Touch Arts programme is this opportunity for feedback, is for people to actually understand how people appreciate their work. And again, being part of that exhibition, and also very much in that co-productive relationship with the soft touch artists as well. So we wanted to also think about how hope is extended, and also think about how this occurs in the community. So again, much like the prison experience, artists reported how valuable it was for them in the community. This person actually got in touch through probation, so on licence. They described it as a life-changing opportunity. It's opened doors for them. It's that creativity, but also an opportunity to express their skills and tell others about it, to work with what they call genuine people, so people that they felt would appreciate them. It's the value of being able to access a creative outlet came up again and again, mitigating against the challenges they face, reintegrating in the community. So any challenges they perhaps have in terms of getting work, in terms of income, in terms of housing, in terms of accessing healthcare, all those kind of issues that we all face day to day. The creative outlet was very important in helping them deal with that. And again, Stickley and Hugh talk about this need for changing self-identity and sustaining that, along with sustaining that sense of hope and belonging as well, which is a very clear theme that came out from the artists. And in fact, they wanted more. They wanted more sessions. They wanted them to be more than weekly, that they wanted more people to do it. They didn't really, this person's expressing a very clear view that this is rehabilitation. This is something that everybody should be involved in, and they should let people come and let people engage with this. Okay, so now I'll hand over to my colleague Ben, who's going to talk about how the work continues.
Thanks, Susie. We think of creativity as showing the real person in a way that, for instance, academic achievement does not. For this reason, art made by prisoners is often judged by the artist's crimes rather than its artistic merits. However, this confusion of the individual with their actions presents an opportunity. Because art is seen as belonging to the emotional reality of a person, making art is understood as opening pathways to their development and growth in the way that we have heard. In other words, in the prison context, art becomes an agent for changing behaviour and contributing to desistance. Therefore, in criminological literature, art programmes are assessed by their outcomes, such as improved desistance, rather than for the nature of the exchange or the quality of the art that is produced. This is an instrumental view of art. These outcomes are very hard to measure, and the very difficulty of the measurement might account for the volume of literature on the subject. We see the opportunity for fresh insight by looking not at outcomes, but at the nature of the creative exchange through arts in prison, the process. To give you a sense of why this may be useful, we would like to conclude with a brief anatomy of the carceral creativity ensemble, looking at it more through the lens of artistic critique. The first observation is that art is not always a good thing. Art and punishment have a long association. The modern prison was predated by public displays of punishment. This idea of a theatre of punishment is evident in Jeremy Bentham's notion of the prison as so many small theatres. A more modern example can be found in the factual psychodrama Scared Straight, in which inmates inform and intimidate wayward adolescents. In other words, the first article in our anatomy is art as punishment, art as social control. In some cases, this control is overt. In others, it is covert, with arts projects serving to cover the painful nature of imprisonment behind a claim of benevolence, this manifestation being described as decorative justice by one researcher. The second item in our anatomy is art as exploitation. This is probably the largest category, but we can cover some of its aspects under the roof of one building. During the city's Year of Culture in 2016, Reading Jail housed an exhibition organised by Artangel. This included a recital of De Profundis, written by the prison's most famous inmate, Oscar Wilde, read out by the musician Patti Smith. She was sat on a concrete plinth the size of Wilde's cell, which had the original cell doors built into it. These doors also featured in Tate Britain's Queer British Art Show in 2017. More recently, the decommissioned prison was a film set for Killing Eve and has been used as a canvas for one of Banksy's most recent interventions. Reading Council is currently proposing to turn the jail, which shut in 2013, into an arts centre. In the case of art as exploitation, prison is used either as a backdrop or artefact for the arts. This category includes some uses of prisoners' art. Here we can ask the provocative question: does the incarceration of the artist lend fascination or attraction to their artwork? If the answer to this question is yes, then we may be looking at an instance of dark tourism. The third item on our anatomy is art as campaign, in which the arts lend campaigning and charitable support for incarcerated people. In some cases, such as the project set up by the American painter Mark Bradford to coincide with his exhibition in the US Pavilion at the 57th Venice Biennale, in which a shop was set up for prisoners to make and sell products, these initiatives are aligned with an artist's personal and creative interests. More usually, however, they are conducted through established charities. All of these categories are really quite broad, and here we can see a marked distinction between Koestler Arts in the United Kingdom, which encourages, in its words, people in the criminal justice system to change their lives by participating in the arts, and by implication, to change public perception of prisoners by exhibiting prisoners' artworks, and, by way of contrast, the Art for Justice Fund in the United States, which describes itself as a decarceration fund, disrupting mass incarceration by funding artists and advocates working together to reform the American criminal justice system. Despite the more radical position of the US organization, both organizations take art as a site for change, because art can engender hope, empathy, and meaning. This change is twofold. It acts on the audience for art, on public perceptions of prisoners, and it also acts on the participants. Most of the time, the activities of prison arts charities are either about giving prisoners access to arts education and artistic experiences, or are about showing prisoners' art to a wider public. But there is a final form of relationship between the arts and incarceration that sits somewhere in between these 2 points. This is art as co-creation and co-working, in which the empathic potential of art is taken as a site of mutual vulnerability and learning. In this final example, artists and prisoners work together on more equal terms, and it follows, therefore, outside of structures of control. One example of this is the iterative Solitary Gardens project led by Jackie Summel, in which the garden plots corresponding to the dimensions of a prison cell are planted according to the directions of inmates held in solitary confinement. The project was designed through a long-standing collaboration with the lead artist and Herman Wallace, a prisoner who spent 4 decades in solitary confinement in Louisiana. We argue that the Soft Touch project is co-productive in the same way. We want to conclude that these 4 categories are not discrete containers, but rather overlapping ideas that can easily bleed into one another. However, if you consider the prepositions that might belong with each category, we think that you'll get a flavour of our ongoing curiosity and the direction of our future research. Art as punishment is art done to prisoners. Art as exploitation is art done from prisoners. Art as campaign is art done for prisoners, whereas art as co-creation is art done with prisoners. It is what happens in the moment of doing with that interests us, and that we intuit will lead to fresh insights into why carceral arts matter. I'd like to just wrap up by saying that there are some publications forthcoming from our research, including one which is currently under review. So do keep a lookout for our papers, please. And thank you very much for listening.
Thanks so much, Ben. What we're going to do now, folks, is have a short comfort break for 5 minutes, get off your chairs, grab a drink, and then really excited. I hope we don't lose any audience viewers, to introduce Kieran and Ashley after the break to talk about the lived experience of the soft touch arts. And I'd be really interested to hear Ashley's views of our interpretations of the research. That would be an excellent conversation we could have later on. If you do have any questions about the research, reach out to any of us or pop your questions in the comments. And if we don't get back to you today, we can certainly arrange for a response to be made. So if we can have a comfort break for 5 minutes, reconvene at 10 past. I know we've got a tight schedule, perhaps we could have done this for longer, but I'm sure you'll appreciate we're all very tired of our screens. So we'll see you in 5, folks. Thank you. Apologies, folks. My mic is was muted. Okay, so I have the pleasure of welcoming Ashley and also Kieran to the show to talk about the lived experience of the Unlocked programme. Kieran, are you there? I can see Ashley. Hi, Ashley. Do you want to unmute yourself? That would be great.
Is Kieran there? Are we starting?
Yeah. Hi, Ashley.
Hi. So, well, I just thought I'd start off by just sort of showing you my work and go from there, really, if that's okay with you guys.
Fantastic.
So let me just get this right. So, oh, I've got to stand back. They're quite big. They're about 1 meter tall. So it's sort of, and then just, and then, yeah.
Yeah.
They take me about, I mean, if I did it properly, they'd take me around sort of about 2 weeks to do, but I'd take my time, so about a month. But I did all these in my prison cell, really. And yeah, as you can see in a moment, I'll show you the prison cell that's been made to look like. Here we go. So this is generally what a prison cell looks like. It varies from prison to prison, but this is the general idea. Same beds, the toilets, sort of the usual graffiti on the wall. And yeah, so I did my artwork by, you had like some cells have cabinets, so I literally just dropped my cabinet on its front here, and they just sat on my bed and drew on it, because we didn't really have tables. Yeah, so
Ashley, how did you basic things here, Ashley, how did you get hold of materials, for example?
So I acquired sort of all my materials over time. So I would just find pencils, or I may buy a pack, like if I can, or maybe like if I'm in an art class in certain prisons, they may give me some materials, just to carry on with. Paper was a different issue, because like to get good quality paper, like the stuff I was using, I had to buy some, but then there's the issue of it, waiting like a month for it to get to through reception and through security. Like at one point with the whole sort of spice epidemic sort of in jail, it was hard to get anything on paper. So to order paper, it was just, you couldn't do it. So towards the end of my sentence, I couldn't even draw because I didn't have any paper.
And how did that make you feel?
Well, at the time anyway, I was going through my parole process and things like that. So I was kind of wasn't really in the mood for drawing, but it was pretty crap, because if I didn't get my parole, then I would still be in the same situation. I would have no paper to work on. And yeah, that was really one of my only outlets, really.
Yeah. And if you don't mind me saying that your work has received lots of attention. I was blown away that it was a drawing. When I first saw it, I thought it was a photograph, one of your portraits, I must admit. And I saw that whilst you were still inside prison. How did it make you feel to know that your work was being publicly displayed in an art exhibition that was free for the public to come and enjoy, and received press attention and all those things that go with exhibitions? How did that make you feel?
Well, it was great, because drawing came quite easy to me. I didn't really practice it. It just sort of came easy, so I didn't really think much of it. But then when Soft Touch came in, they saw my work, and then sort of took it to the Leicester Museum and the exhibitions and showed it to people, and the comments and the feedback I was receiving was just like, wow, okay, maybe it is something. Maybe I could actually do something with this, like professionally, and actually make a career of it, because I'd never really thought of that before. So it was quite, like I said, it was quite it did give me hope that I could actually do something with this, rather than just get out and not know what I was going to do. So at the moment, I've been offered like a tattoo apprenticeship and things like that, and I want to continue doing my artwork. So it's helped a lot. And through Soft Touch, I've made so many links with people and I've been offered, like I said, I got a tattoo apprenticeship through Soft Touch, and just so much support, and it's been great.
Excellent. Were you listening to what we were saying about what we found as researchers, and was there anything in there that you felt that we've got right, we've got wrong, we've missed the point?
I found what you
don't be shy, be honest.
Well, I find it quite poignant because, especially in sort of certain prisons, using, like I was saying, I had my own materials, my own pencils and my own paper and things like that. In some prisons, if you use prison materials, the artwork then belongs to the prison. So it's not even yours, you can't take it or anything like that. So it was it wasn't great. So I never drew any pictures in the art classes. Any of this I never drew in the art classes, because then it wouldn't be my work. Well, it would be, but it wouldn't belong to me. So it's almost, at certain points, exploitation, especially when you're doing artwork that they want to display around the prisons and they're only paying you £12 a week. It's a bit, but
Lisa, what do you think? Or would you like to ask?
Interesting. I mean, we've become friends now, haven't we, as well? And I think that's important, that for people to realise that it isn't about being an art teacher. It's, we speak regularly online. I was there speaking with you when you were coming out of prison, and I see you as a friend now, and I'm interested in your career. I just wondered how it seemed for us to come into that space. Did it feel like we were doing something different?
Also, you guys came in with Soft Touch, and just you by yourself as well when you came like to healthcare and that. And I gave you like a little tour, and it was sort of it was you didn't come in as, I suppose you did come in as professionals, but it was a lot more relaxed than that. You were just people, you were people, and you had your own experiences, and you were sharing those with us, and people enjoyed that, because we're too used in prison. You don't really see that other than visits. The people you see or talk to have professional boundaries and things like that, and and it's just like you don't communicate as people with them. So to actually speak to people and to relate to them, it was just it was really good.
I think just to have artists coming into prison as well, for people who are in the art classes who may want to become an artist. So that was great to see your enthusiasm. I was really taken back by you doing these drawings in your cell, and I've seen how grubby cells can get, and they're just pristine. It's like you must have how do you keep them?
Yeah, so when I ever touched them, like I would never touch the paper. Like I would touch like the sides of the paper. I would never pick them up because the oil was on your fingers, or I'd put down a piece of paper to put underneath my hand where I'm drawing. I would use cotton swabs for like doing the blending in and things like that. So it was I was very funny with my work. People leaning over it just like makes me panic, because it took a month to do it, and to get it like, I'm a bit of a perfectionist, so to get it just right, if somebody just like spilled anything on it, I think I'd die.
There's also, you were speaking about, I remember you saying something about drawing reminded you of being in prison, and I wonder whether there's something about thinking about that any differently now, or processing drawing in a different way.
Well, because since I've been out, I still haven't got my own place. It's sort of been a lot of moving about. I haven't even been able to draw. All my drawing equipment's at my sister's, and I've not been able to do anything. So I really want to get back to it. I do love drawing, so I haven't been able to do any for 8 months. It's just been, it's been difficult. So, but I do want to get back to it. And I think I'll be all right drawing. I don't think it'll remind me of prison anymore. Like I said, I can't wait to get back to enjoying it.
And what are you doing now? Have you got any news for us? And your drawing in prison help you in any way to get to where you're thinking?
Oh, definitely. So like I mentioned before, I've been offered a tattoo apprenticeship. I'm just trying to find a house or somewhere out where the tattoo apprenticeship is, so I can start studying and hopefully tattoo as well as I can draw, and yeah, see where that leads. Hopefully a good career.
Mm.
So that definitely
We've got-
helped me because sorry.
Yeah, Ashley, we've got a question from Helen who's watching, and she says, how did your arts practice help you with your well-being whilst in prison? Could you say more about that? How did it make you feel whilst you were drawing? Did you feel like you were in prison? Did it help you cope?
Well,
did it help you?
It took my mind out of the situation, because I mean, I struggled with self-harm for like nearly 15 years. So it was drawing. I've got a very sort of overactive mind. I can't really stop thinking. I'm constantly thinking. So the artwork sort of took my attention away from that. A lot of times I'm not even like focusing on what I'm on my drawings as I'm doing it. I'll have the TV on or something like that, and it would just have focusing on multiple things at once, sort of just relaxed me, sort of took my mind out of it. I wasn't focusing on the noises around me. Anyone who's been into a prison will know the noise is quite bad and constant. So it sort of took my mind out of it. I set my focus. It relaxed me, and it was, like I said before, it just gave me hope for doing something in the future. Because before I was sort of like, what am I going to do when I get out? Like, if I ever get out, what am I supposed to do? And so,
were we right in saying that this has helped you to have some of those goals? Because that's what we spotted from interviewing other artists.
Oh, sorry, I don't understand the question. Sorry, what did you say?
Wait, were we right as in our research when we said, I don't know if you heard, but we spotted that it helped you to set goals, to have aspirations and see yourself beyond just being a prisoner, to see yourself and transform that you're identifying yourself as an artist now, or other things.
Yeah, so I identify myself as a professional artist because I've sold work now. But it was only after, like I said, when I started seeing Soft Touch, and I started seeing when I started getting in contact with Lisa, with Corin, with just everybody, and then sort of them telling me, like, you can actually do something with your work, you can make a living off of it, and that's when the sort of goals started to at first it was hard to believe, but then I started to sort of realize, I could actually do something with it. And that's where I started to get, like I said, the goals, where I realized I could make a career of it. And sort of trying to figure these things out, and then getting help from everybody that's been supporting me to do that. So definitely, yeah, of course.
Fantastic. And my other question is around you supporting other prisoners or people that are now on probation in community settings. Have you, when we talk about collaboration and we know certainly that the role of peers and peer support is very powerful in those settings, were you involved in encouraging others, showing others, teaching others, supporting others in their pursuit of creative outlets?
Well, at the moment, I've been a bit limited in what I can do, but I've always left my work at Soft Touch, so I know it's safe here. And if it could ever be used to show people sort of like what you can do, and sort of with different materials, that's great. I've helped a little bit with sort of when some like kids are doing projects and things, and they like need to ask people, like artists, questions. Then I've said, yeah, ask me anything you want. So I've helped with that. But I would like to in the future start going back into prisons and helping people, because it helps to have someone to relate to as well, and say like, look, I was in your situation, if not worse, and I managed to get out of it. I managed to do my work. I managed to, achieve something from it. And I would like to help people, because seeing the prison system from my point of view, I know where its faults are. I know where its flaws are. So I want to do something about it. I can't sort of, having gone through that and sort of walking away and not looking back. Some people can do that, but I can't. I want to help improve in any way I can, whether it's just helping people individually or however I can do that.
Yeah. Simon, you're a resettlement caseworker. Listening to Ashley's journey here from prison to community, and I know you've supported, you're an expert in, you're an art specialist, so you know this is familiar territory for you. What have you got to say about Ashley's journey and his lived experience of you know, using his art and that's part of his life, part of his identity?
Well, Ashley's exceptional. He, you know, what he's done is exceptional. The quality of his work is exceptional. To have actually maintained his focus through, I know what he's gone through since he's come out of prison, is exceptional. It's almost kind of impossible to sort of correlate that with the more generalized use of arts in the prison, because he's surprised me. And obviously the first time I saw his artwork, I was like, whoa. And then meeting him, but you know, the way I think I got no idea whether or not what Ashley would, well, I suppose I could just ask him. No, essentially what has got you through, you know, kind of your journey from jail to this. I would say you're probably semi-settled, but you've got some sort of a thing to properly look forward to now.
Yeah.
What do you think's got you through that?
So just to go back to prison isn't an option for me. You know, I don't want to go through that again. I've had enough of it, as you can imagine. So it's I have, in my opinion, I have no choice. I have to keep working. I have to do something with it. But not only that, it's not sort of like I'm obliged to. It's more of, you know, I want to do something with my work. I want to help people. I've always been trying to help people even when I was in prison and people were doing their artwork, and a lot of them would come to me and ask me, how do I do this? How do I do that? I want to help people as much as I can, as much as I'm able to, because I don't want other people to go through the same things I did. So, yeah. And
yeah, I think, you know, from this sort of experience that I'm used to more dealing with on a much more general level, using the arts and sort of developing the necessary skills or creating something as a vehicle to take with you from inside to outside, I think Ashley kind of, you transcend that a little bit. And so some of the stuff, it's kind of, it's not really typical. You can sort of take, with most people, you could perhaps hope to take 10% of what Ashley's talking about. Yeah, so just something that just for no apparent reason just occurred to me is, you know, you said, Ashley, you were talking about how the prison kind of effectively owns a lot of your work. I've been doing some work at Stockton in the last sort of month and a half, and no offense, is that why your stuff on the walls there is a bit rubbish?
Yep, that's exactly why. There was no way I was doing anything, you know, that of higher quality when they were only paying me that much. I always said to them, if they want me to do work, pay me properly, but otherwise I'm not doing it.
I've seen your name under some of these pictures and I'm thinking, but he's one of the best artists I've seen in my life, and like, my kid could do that.
I know, I always hated it when it was on the walls, because I thought, if people are going to see that, that's what they're going to judge me by, that quality work. I'm like, no, don't look at that. Like, I'll show you my proper stuff. Just that's not my level, I suppose. Yeah, it is a bit crappy.
Fantastic. But that's a really important point, and Ben was talking about that at the end, this notion of, you know, art as exploitation, and particularly, you know, and we've had a comment about this idea of you know, prisons being sites of exploitation, and it's really interesting to hear your take on that, Ashley, and I think Lisa and I, we've had some conversations, haven't we, about who owns. Yeah, put your mic on, Lisa.
Yeah, I was just going to say something really briefly. If artists and researchers are going into prison, it's important that we don't say, this is my project, and here's some work from prison, and you know, think about art careers in like this careerist way, or that people might be drawn to it because of this. And I am quite concerned that some artists have gone into prison and made these kind of projects that people in prison don't get a chance to see. I have seen this happening, and it's important that we get some kind of overview of the artists that are going into all prisons. I can't see that as something that exists. So we just make sure in our own work that we're not doing that.
Yeah. We're going to have to wrap up this little section. Has anyone got any other final comments? Ashley, I think we should end with the comment from you. What do you want to tell the world about the role of arts in your journey?
So without my work, I don't know what I would have done in prison. I don't know if I would have made it out, to be honest with you. It was, it's hard to put into words, really. Just kind of, it just gave me, it did, like I said, and it's understating the fact that it gave me hope for doing something with my life, to be told that, you have a skill that not everyone has and you can do something with that was just brilliant. And just being, having people to reinforce that idea in my head that I can do something, because, with all my background, things like that, it's just taking compliments or actually accepting that you can do something was alien to me. So it was great. I don't keep saying great, but to have people around me bolstering sort of my confidence and helping me through all this and giving me support where I have no idea where to do a lot of these things, because I went to prison when I was 13. I didn't know how to do a lot of these things. I didn't know how to sort of link with other artists and get my work out there, and I didn't even know how much my work was worth. So it's just having support was just an amazing thing as well.
Yeah, and it's that bigger support that you got. It's not just about the creation of the art, but it's everything in your life. And I think that we mentioned that earlier when Kieran was talking about all the other things that those lead facilitators, those lead artists do in supporting artists in this landscape. Thank you. Simon, do you have one more comment? Then we need to skip to the next section.
Yeah, I just think kind of tying that up, the exploitation and what's led Ashley to where he is. I think that it's, the art is great as Ashley's artwork is. It's a bit secondary. And actually, with the exploitation side of it, loads of people go into prisons purely voyeuristically. They're like, oh, is this like Orange is the New Black or something like that? But what is actually the thing that's really kind of got Ashley to where he is now? It's the people that he's worked with. I've spent loads of time on the phone to Lisa, to Kieran. It's because these people are genuine and they care about Ashley. And so I'll just get some random panic phone call from Kieran. Oh, but what we're going to do? And that's, so actually to have got Ashley to where he is, it's mainly testament to his personality and the help that he's got from other people. His artwork could be rubbish. He perhaps wouldn't have got the tattooist apprenticeship on the back of the same level of work, but it's the art as a vehicle. It's what it transcends. It's what it achieves, and the people that are around him. That's what has, I think, taken him from where he was 5-6 years ago when I first came across him to where he's at now.
And we learn from him. We learn from you too. It's not all about how much art has helped you, but it's also what you can teach us. And I just want to say that you've taught me a lot, Ashley. So thank you for that.
Well, thank you.
Okay, thanks. We could carry on this conversation, and I wish we were all together. It'd be a wonderful thing, but we can't be at the moment. So thanks so much, guys. Right then, everyone, we're coming up to the sort of last session of chat, and then we'll be moving into the exhibition. My colleague Ben is going to chair the next Q&A session. It looks like we've not had many comments from the audience. I think the discussion on exploitation might be something to take forward. But over to you, Ben.
Thanks very much, Victoria. I just want to pick up on something that Simon was just saying there, which is a flavour of exactly, you know, how many people are involved in a project like this. And I want to say something quite important at this stage, which is that it's not just those people who are represented here today who were involved in the project. The project was funded by the Arts Council, and it was a Leicestershire Partnership NHS Trust project that made it all possible. Unfortunately, we were going to be joined by Tim Sayers, who was instrumental in writing that initial bid to the Arts Council, and unfortunately he hasn't been able to join us today. But I think we need to acknowledge that it's part of a much larger environment and ecology, really, which makes a project such as Unlocked possible. So for this final part of the programme, before we actually go and have a look at some of the work at the end, which I'm really looking forward to, we're joined for a Q&A by Ashley, who's still on the screen, Victoria, Lisa, Simon, Kieran, and I want to introduce Jermaine, who's another one of the artists on the project. And hi, Jermaine, great to see you here today. And I do want to encourage those of you who are watching to drop any questions that you've got into the chat, and we'll pick those up and bring you in. So I'm going to keep an eye on that. I can see we've got one question at the moment, which I will come to in a mo, but do ask any questions you've got. Don't be shy. This is your opportunity to ask a question directly of people that are involved in carceral arts, either as an artist or as an enabler or facilitator, and so forth. I wanted to start off by just asking a question to Jermaine, as we haven't heard of him yet, before I go to the questions from the audience. Jermaine, could you tell us a little bit about what the project felt like for you, and perhaps what the difference was between what you did with Soft Touch and what an art class might have been like? You're muted. You need to unmute yourself. Perfect. Oh, you're muted again.
Yeah, that's it, I think.
That's good. You're good, yeah.
Yeah, I found the exhibition really inspiring, and it helped to build my confidence and make me feel like I was a part of something important and meaningful and worthwhile and substantial. The difference between the exhibition and a normal arts class in prison is that it's in prison, it's interrupted. Like, you might only have that session an hour a week or an hour a fortnight or whatever. So in between, you're just left with your thoughts in your cell. I only really attended a few arts classes in prison. There wasn't much available on my journey due to certain circumstances. However, I really accessed the arts and creative side when I was on probation in 2017. And I was at a juncture in my life where I just lost a real dear lifelong friend to knife crime. I was just been released from a short sentence, albeit it was still a backward step for me because I'd currently come off license and I'd been out a few years, so it wasn't the direction I wanted to be going. So I was at a bit of a crossroads as to, like, what am I going to do? Am I good enough to better myself, or do I go back down that same old path? And due to me losing my friend to knife crime, I was put through my probation officer. I was put in touch with Soft Touch and De Montfort University, and from there I literally created my own logo, and it's led on to me being involved with the exhibition and stuff like that. So it gave me direction at the time when I was on probation, and I wasn't too sure which way my life could go. I actually felt at the time it might actually do a U-turn and go back to where I'd started, kind of thing. Always in and out of custody and things like that. So the exhibition gave me direction, and it gave me esteem and confidence. Like I said, it made me feel part of something. and important. And I want to say as well that the arts, creative arts, are fundamental to rehabilitating people. Like literally, it gives you escape, it gives you confidence, it gives you focus, it gives you drive, determination, it makes you feel worthy. So
thanks very much, Jermaine. We've been joined by Tim Sayers, who's popped up on your screen now. Tim is from the Leicestershire Partnership NHS Trust. I'm sure we'll come to you in a moment, Tim. We have a question that's come up in the chat about artist exploitation, particularly asking for a variety of perspectives on that. And I think that I would really like to go to Kieran on this first, because Kieran, you're in a really crucial position as the real site of the activity. Kieran, what do you think of the artist exploitation question? The question directly is, I'd like to explore the artist exploitation further. Any further comments? It's a very open question.
I mean, when we have gone in to do the projects that we do, we tend to we start at a point where we don't really know who's going to be interested, what their previous experiences are of being involved in any kind of arts or education or any kind of we don't know what stage of the journey they're at and how much they value the work that they do, and quite often we'll find people that are extremely unconfident about their own ability, even if they are actually very capable, due to the circumstances that they might have experienced up to that point through education or lack of it, or their own personal circumstances. So we try to start at a point that is it's going to be accessible for whoever it is that that we're working with, and some people are happy and confident enough to reach a point where they want other people to see what they're doing and want to be involved in bigger exhibitions and share what they do, whereas other people are accessing these things because deep down, whether they realize it or not at the time, that they keep coming back to it because they know that they're enjoying that process. And it may be a very basic thing that they're doing, really simple. We found that some of the people that enjoy the projects the most and that come back to them the most often are very happy just to do something really, really simple that may not ever even see the light of day or see an exhibition or be used in the grander scheme of what we're doing, and that is as much part of the process as the more the sorts of big exhibitions that we do, or the kind of things that you'll be looking at later on after this discussion. So I'm not sure if that covers the topic in that way. I don't know what Ashley might think about that. We had a brief discussion about that while we were in between these. Ashley, did you have any thoughts on this?
You're muted, Ashley.
Sorry, I got lost in that. Sorry.
So when we spoke about the you and I were speaking about the arts and exploitation.
Oh yeah. So I'm really sorry. I got distracted. What was the question? Sorry.
Ben,
I'll tell you what, while we're regaining our focus, I'd like to turn quickly to Simon and see if Simon, have you got a take on some of the things that Kieran's been describing?
I think just really quite generally, all artists are open to being exploited. Just ask someone who's in a band how much somebody wants them to play for. Suddenly, you got, oh yeah, can you come do a charity do for us? I know could you do a wedding for 200 quid? Like all 6 of you, we want you all day there, and so on. So all artists are generally quite often exploited by society, whether or not it's just a general value and undervaluing, and also prisoners are quite often exploited in one way or another, be it the voyeurism that I mentioned earlier, be it cheap labour, they are the biggest labour base, aren't they, in America? So there's both of these worlds are people that are traditionally exploited. So that is just how it is. I think, the only way I've ever really been able to come to terms with that or deal with it in prison is just to accept it and be totally upfront with it. Essentially, if you're working with lads in prison and they've produced something brilliant, you say, look, can I use that? Right? Essentially, people higher up are going to absolutely love that. They might want to use it to make them look good, but in return, they may well back this art project for another year. So what you're doing is you're helping the lads that are going to come after you. It is just, I suppose, just without making the same point again, that is simply society.
And exploitation is an aspect of control, isn't it? It's an aspect of control and coercion. There's something related to that, which quite often happens with the visual arts. Now, I'd like to sort of take the conversation in this direction and ask about censorship and what experience people have had of censorship. Perhaps initially, again, Kieran and Simon, because you're really instrumental. And then I'd really like to hear from the artists on this, Jermaine and Ashley.
Do you want to go, Kieran, or shall I?
You go ahead. I can add to whatever.
A lot of my work is
breaking up.
Is
I didn't catch that. It broke up.
Jermaine, we're just going to chat about censorship for a moment, and Simon's going to comment on that, and then it would be good to come to your Ashley.
A lot of the work that I do is music based, so there's clearly sort of lots of potential lines in censorship about that as well. I think you've got there's just so many different lines that you have to potentially draw in a prison. We could just sort of compare it to the music that is absolutely fine to broadcast on Radio 1 Extra. But you've also got the fact that it's coming from a prison, that there is always, and then there's identifying individuals, because lots of individuals have victims. And, the last thing that someone might want to hear is the perpetrator of, a crime against them being celebrated in some way. I think you can make sort of certain sensible judgments at the time, but I also think that I feel that there's so much that can be said in the world of art that I'm not entirely sure that there's much to be gained by really, really trying to push those boundaries, unless you're just trying to push them for the sake of it. I mean, look at the work that Ashley's got. Look at some of the tracks that Jermaine's come up with. Jermaine's track makes so many points. It makes, and really, really heartfelt points. It doesn't need to cross any censorship barriers. So I think, we can always hold everything that you're trying to work well within all of the censorship barriers, because there is still plenty you can say.
Can I just add on that as well from the visual art point of view? One of the issues that we're constantly aware of is around identity, revealing people's identities, particularly if we have major exhibitions in places like the museum or here at Soft Touch or other public venues. And one of the issues that crops up is that people who've created the artwork want their name to go out. They want people to know who made this piece of work, and quite often we are in a position where we are not in a position to give those details out because of the the sensitivity of it, and being aware that there may be victims who could view this, and that can be met with frustration by the artist. Ashley, I know that's been it's been an issue for you for a long time. I don't know if you've got any thoughts on that, but I know that we've talked about it before.
Yeah, so I always had a bit of the fact that my work was being displayed, but it was never attributed to me. It was, I am proud of my work, and to then not have my name attributed to it, it was a bit of a down moment. But that is, I understand why it's done, but at the same time, it is heartbreaking sometimes that you feel like you can't be proud of your work. You can't show your name. You have to hide yourself. You can't, sort of display something for the public because of the situation you're in. You're like, it's almost like within the prison system in this country, everyone wants you to be hidden away. You see prisons with great conifers around the fences because nobody wants to see it. Nobody wants to see you. Nobody wants to hear about it. They just want to close their eyes and pretend it doesn't exist. And I suppose that's why these projects help as well, to actually get out there. But I did want to I know I'm sort of backtracking a little bit back to the exploitation point, but I've been in a lot of prisons, and around those prisons, they've seen a lot of exploitation. I've always been sort of very, very vocal about it all. So like, I was in a slate engraving workshop in another prison before, and so the officers would commission people to do work in slate engraving. They'd pay for it, but you would still get the same wage. You'd pay like £12 a week, but basically engraving great pieces of slate with people's dogs, with whatever design they wanted, just like you could sell for a lot of money, yet you were only getting a pittance for it. Or any of the workshops, like in working prisons or training prisons, like if you don't work, you basically are punished for it. And it seems like oh, okay, it's not slave labor as long as we're paying them a wage, even if it's pittance. But it's also like in American prisons, it's okay. I've checked it out. I'm pretty sure I did look up the report on it, but it's fine. Slavery is fine as long as it's under the guise of punishment or penance or anything like that. So it's a big problem, especially when you leave prison with £46 and you just discharge grants, and you're expected to start your life on £46, which hasn't changed since the 90s. You spend all your money in prison, the little that you get to survive in prison, to buy food or to buy toiletries. You leave with nothing, and you're expected to start your life. It's setting up to fail. So to actually give people a real wage, like they do in France or most European countries. Sorry, those are my thoughts. I'll stop ranting now.
No, thanks very much, Ashley. That's obviously, I think that I'm certainly speaking for me, and I'm sure for those of us who are in the audience as well. I think your perspectives are really useful and really interesting, and often not heard. So I mean, there's absolutely no need for you to apologise for that. And there's a kind of related question I want to take from the audience, which is. The question is from Helen. I'm really aware that exhibitions of artwork from prisons can potentially be visited for voyeuristic or patronising reasons. Any thought of how this can be challenged? Because Ashley, you mentioned that that prisoners are often hidden from view, and so when prisoners do become visible, sometimes that is not for the right reasons, as partly as we've discussed. What are your thoughts on this question?
I've always had an issue around it's. I think it's a really big issue as a whole around sort of society's perception of crime, and if all you have to do is go through a TV guide or watch TV and just see all the programs about crime, and it's almost like we in this country have a morbid fascination with crime. We like watching it, and I've even flicked past programs where I've seen sort of programs with, and people are saying, "Oh, I hope we catch somebody today," rather than the thought of, "I hope we don't. I hope nobody commits a crime today." It's more of, I hope we, it's sort of that perception of it. And I think that's led out in society where we like watching things like that. We like watching programs about crime, but that's all we care about. We don't want to actually help stop that. It's like in like a lot of, I keep, it's like, say, Scandinavian countries, for instance, where they actually help people, where they actually try and help rehabilitate people, and all we have to do is look at the recidivism rates in those countries to see that it works. But over here, yet we have a system there that works perfectly fine, yet they will not implement it over here. So I keep going off on different tangents.
Well,
the heuristics of the people going to them, I just hope that if people do go there for the wrong reasons, or to, like you said, just out of a moral fascination, or just voyeuristically, to whatever their motive may be, I just hope that when they actually get there and they see the work people are doing, and that it changes their approach. I welcome the people that have going, smirking, and I hope they leave perhaps a little more wiser. That's all I can hope. And if I can be there to speak to these people, and to actually, if they try and enlighten people, then I'm happy to do that, and I want to. That's all I can hope for,
Simon, if you've got a perspective on this, you must have seen it all.
I think that, well, firstly, I think Ashley actually kind of made a lot of the points really well there. But I think that one thing, voyeurs generally don't stick it out. They're lazy. They just want to come in. They want to see stuff, and they want to essentially get covered in a bit of reflected glory from, like, Ashley and Jermaine's talents. That's pretty much all they want. So they ain't gonna last. But the other thing is, I think that people like Ashley and Jermaine that have spent an amount of time behind bars can spot this a mile off. And so I don't know. I think that they would probably be able to say a lot better than I can, essentially, how you can see someone coming that doesn't mean it. And Jermaine moved his hand there, didn't he?
I've got a bit of an example of it sometimes. I street perform, or busking, as people like to refer to it as. But when I've got a song called "Stop the Bloodshed," and when I perform it in the street, sometimes I'll see kids, teenagers walking up, and you can see you can't hear the dialogue, but you can generally commentate on it, and then they'll smirk, look at each other, laugh, look at me, and then you can generally see that they're thinking, this old guy is rapping in the street. And to the extent where I've actually had it, where I've had that kind of body language when they're approaching me, they'll get past me, like 3 or 4 yards past, they'll hear a lyric, and literally I've had people stop in their tracks like, okay, turn around and give me money. So yeah, that's just like one example of it, I believe.
That doesn't surprise me, Jermaine. I've seen you in action. So I can attest to the power of the experience. So we're coming towards the end now, and I'm very aware that we're running out of time. I feel like we could go on for an awful lot longer, but I really want to bring in Tim, because we haven't really heard from his perspective. As I mentioned at the top of this Q&A, Tim was instrumental on behalf of the Leicestershire Partnership NHS Trust for securing the funding that has made it possible. And so I'd like to turn to you, Tim, for some final words as we are coming towards the end of this session.
Thank you very much, Ben, and hello, everybody. Lovely to see you all here today. And sincere apologies. I've never been on one of these Steam Yard events, and so I didn't find the thing I had to press to actually join it. So I was sitting here thinking, why aren't they letting me into this thing? And sure enough, eventually I got a message and I scrolled down and there it was. As it is, I don't think anyone wanted to hear anything I've got to say. I was just going to say about how I work, and I work for the NHS, and everything I do is trying to demonstrate how the impact the arts can have on mental health. A lot of what we've heard today is the impact the arts can have within a prison environment. And it just shows how much, if people kind of work at things, what you can get out of it. I just want to mention, before I say anything else, I have to mention the name Eleanor Ramsell. Eleanor Ramsell was an occupational therapist who worked at Glen Parva Institution, And in 2014, she emailed me and said, I want to do a bit of art in prison. And I went to see her and I thought, well, how do I get out of doing any work here? I thought, well, I'll get soft touch involved. So I got soft touch involved. And that's where all this came from, just her emailing, wanting to do a little project in Clembarber Prison. And I kind of think I know that because prisons mirror society in the way we look after people. Ashley's summed that up in some ways, because you can look at Scandinavia and how systems can be different, or in the US of A, where I think the prison population is very high. And I very much hope as the years go by, we'll do exactly what you've said, Ashley. We'll look at where things work better and copy them. We don't have to make it up. But I think we hope now that this, through the research that's taken place, and that's all shared, that projects like this might take place in more prisons, because I think we've seen the odd message of prisoners saying this doesn't happen in our prison. And I think everyone would agree it's the sort of thing we'd like to see happening in more prisons. And also, like Kieran was saying, where you're working with the prisoners. I think someone's saying you're working with the prisoners rather than as education does. You know, if you come, then we'll give you you'll get punished if you don't come to this art class. So you're doing something that's actually working with people. I think that's enough from me. I'm sure we're running over time, and apologies again. I can't believe I've got it wrong again, technology, but it was with best intentions. I've messed it all up. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think it's incredibly fitting that we've ended this particular part of the programme with you and your contribution. As you were there at the beginning, and in many ways you made it all happen. So I think we all owe you a big thank you, Tim. This is the end of the conference part of the presentation, but the really exciting bit is yet to come, which is a virtual exhibition of work which has been made over the last 3 years through the lifetime of this programme, mainly in HMP Leicester and Stockholm. So I'm going to wrap it up by thanking all of the participants today for making this possible, thanking DMU for their support and for the producers of this event, and in particular thanking the artists who've given of their time to share something of their experience of the programme. So thank you very much, Ashley, and thank you, Jermaine, and thank you, everyone. I'm going to hand over now to Kieran Walsh and Kieran Bond, and hopefully Darren Baynor to show some of the artists' work from the last 3 years. Thank you very much, everyone.
Okay, hopefully we'll be able to move across to the exhibition shortly. We're going to have somebody guiding us around, and I can kind of explain a bit about what some of the pieces are, but at least some of them were created by people who are here who are currently here and able to speak about their own work. So there is some photography, there's some old drawings, and lots of different bits and pieces. So we'll have a look as soon as we get that link up and running.
I think Darren's trying to join.
Apparently. Okay, we'll just wait for Darren to join then.
Need to remove someone.
We haven't actually tried this. Well, we've tested it, so we know that it's possible to do it. So let's just hope that we're able to get it up and running. I'm just waiting for the feed. Ah, there we go. Right. Okay, so this online virtual gallery that we've been using has been really, really useful in the lockdown, particularly because it's meant that we've been able to virtually show exhibitions and people's work, obviously without having to have a space that people can physically walk in and out of. It was something that we had to kind of adapt to very quickly when the pandemic struck. Initially, because we had a big exhibition on both at the museum and at Soft Touch, and we had to stop it basically. So what we did was put everything online. This is a new gallery that we haven't used before. It's quite a nice looking one. So I've gone back through previous work and just picked out a few pieces over that we've with people have done over the years on different projects. We also have behind us and upstairs there is a small gallery, and that's actually artwork and photography that was put together by people who are here with us, and I'm hoping that you guys will be able to say a bit about what it is that we're looking at. So Holly, if you're able to move up the stairs and have a look, and then people can see what it is that we're talking about. And I'll start talking there. I'll let these guys explain what it is. So these pieces in the corner, these are by Darren. Darren, I know that you there's a lot of meaning behind these that you were telling me about the other day. So yeah, if you could say a bit about that, that'd be great.
Yeah, I can stay quite a bit. Can go a bit close to the one with the multicoloured hair, if you don't mind. Not Marley one, but if it goes to the one with the multicoloured hair, pan into that a little bit, get a bit closer if you can. Well, what's happened? One of my friends that's at college, Converse contacted them and said if there's any local artists that would like to enter a competition about Pride. So obviously I entered it. And I wanted to put all different cultures and what Pride actually meant to people. So that's my interpretation of Pride. So the afro is obviously the afro's got all different colours hair. That's the Pride colours, and it's got the Converse sign in her eye. And I researched, and Converse started in 1922 by a guy called Chuck Taylor, and he was the first sportsman that was endorsed for Converse. So I checked all that out, and then the people underneath that person there's 3 other people, and I haven't got no faces. I haven't got no faces or expression because I wanted other people to have their own opinion. I didn't want people to put into races or into categories. So I wanted other people to make their own decisions. So one is of mixed heritage. The first one's mixed heritage. The other 3 people are Asian, white, and black. And obviously I had to put a fellow in there to represent Pride. And I found out Pride was first started in 1970. It was a place called Stonewall, and that's how Pride became along. So that is my interpretation of Pride. So that's about that really. And obviously the Bob Marley one, say no more. That's an old one I've revamped to come up to date with this one. So that's my interpretation of my work there.
Thanks very much, Darren. With there are some photographs, so there may be 1 or 2 of yours that we'll come back to you on in a second. If we can just look around the room and see what else we've got in this space. There's a photograph on the end. I think that's yours, Kieran, is it?
Yeah, it was taken in Abbey Park. They've got like a lavender garden. I was like walking during lockdown, and I submitted it to the National Geographic magazine, and it got printed as well.
Wow, I didn't know that. Excellent.
Yeah.
Okay. We could maybe say a bit about the photography project that you guys have been involved in. Some of these images were originally featured in another exhibition. Does anyone want to sort of explain about that?
Yeah, go on, Jermaine.
That the middle one with the sunset above the lake. That's just a photo that I took. The lake near where I lived. I try and get up there at least once a day if I can, and it's just beautiful and peaceful and calming up there. And just I like to take good. I just like nature and wildlife, and I like to take what I think is a good picture. So that's just one of many that I took on my journeys up to the lake.
And these were all taken for a project that was working with a photographer called Kareen, who is very talented. And she was doing it, I think it was for her master's, wasn't it, Kieran?
Yeah.
Yeah, she was doing she was basically teaching us to use a camera. Well, these guys to use a camera, the basics of photography, and then using film. She sent us some film, and yeah, we just went out and took pictures. About like our experience of lockdown, and they were putting an exhibition in February, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think if we can move to the other room opposite this, there are a few more images from that exhibition. So the person who took those pictures isn't here at the moment, but she experimented with film camera photography and took these shots that are sort of moving. There seems to be a lot of motion, and they were generally from walks when she was walking out during the lockdown. So I think that's a pylon, looking up through a pylon on the left, and on the right we've got fronds of trees and leaves moving in the wind.
And she said she purposely made them blurry, didn't she?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There were more images in this exhibition, but this is just a small selection.
Well, these are mine as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, the train comes from again walking about in lockdown. I've got a neighbour that's like he likes trains, so we used to go and like our daily walk was like through the Western Park, and it's got a railway line that goes like sort of through Western Park. You go like around the side of it, and there's like a crossing that you can see the trains at. This was on a bridge over in Western Park. There's a bridge that you can see the trains go under. And the guy playing the bongos was, I thought it was quite a good picture because there was basically nobody in town, but he was still playing the bongos to like basically nobody and still having a real good time. And yeah, I just thought it kind of was a happy kind of moment, I guess.
Thanks, Kieran. That's great. We'll if we move downstairs, we'll have a brief look around at some of the pieces on the wall. There's if we look up, just as if you turn around and look towards the ceiling, there is a sculpture, well, a representation of a sculpture of a swallow, which was something that we built, or a couple of guys built during one of our projects, where they rolled up lots of pieces of paper and made the skeleton structure of this bird in flight, and then made papier-mâché skin. It was quite a big piece, which we showed here in our building. So that was kind of more or less what it looked like. We've got various pieces from HMP Stockham. Some of those paintings on the right, there was one of Elvis. Those were produced for the last exhibition, Unlocked exhibition, that we had here at Soft Touch. The drawing next to it is something that we've used in the prison cell. It's actually what happens quite a lot is people who like drawing portraits often get requests to draw people's family photos for other people. So the guy that did this did that drawing for a friend of his, as far as I can remember. And then the drawing on the wall of the unicorn, the yellowish looking one, that was actually a biro drawing. And the guy that produced that is also very, very good at building sculptures, and he makes these sort of cross between matchstick and soap art, using lots of other things that he's able to manipulate to make these really, really beautiful, detailed flowers. When Lisa and I were in HMP Leicester, we did quite a lot of work with this guy, and what he was particularly keen on was sharing his skills with other people. So what we were trying to we tried to facilitate sessions where we could provide him materials and he could help other people and show them how to make the things that he was able to make. And we actually displayed some of those 3D objects. The one next to it, the Super NHS, that was another lockdown project, and that was something that happened when we couldn't get in. We still can't get in, but this was an idea for a project where we sent in postcards and people drew on them, and things that were relevant, and the things that were happening at the time, obviously the lockdown and how it was affecting people inside and outside prison. And we had lots of entries back, so that was one of these, the Super NHS drawing. If we have a look around at the other end of the room, Darren, I think there's one of your pieces.
There's
so
one with a face.
Yeah.
If you can pan where it is, it's somewhere. I think it's to the right hand side, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe it's the right hand side. No, it's not there. Keep going.
Oh, it's
going
the corner.
There, on that side. To the right, just behind that pillar. See that pillar, yeah?
To the face in the corner on the left.
You keep going up towards there.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Left, go left. Whoever's doing the controlling. I can't remember. I need to see it. I got my glasses. Hold on one sec. Well, I've done that quite a few years ago, and the reason I've done that picture is that I come from a same system family. Like my brother comes from a same system. My family comes from a same system, and we play a lot of reggae music. We go to a lot of carnivals and festivals, and the idea came to me was after the Manchester bombing. After the Manchester bombing, where I can't remember the name of the artist. So I drew that, and it was my interpretation of like if you look in his eyes, he's got his pupil has got an English flag, and then these other people a Jamaican flag. It was just my interpretation of saying that we're crying for them. Like, it's my way of saying, look, I feel their pain, and that's why on one side you got like the England, and on the other side you got the Rasta colours. But it was trying to say to me, like, it don't matter what colour you are, what nation you are, what creed you are, we all felt that pain, and we all probably went through that in some kind of way, or we knew somebody that went through it. So that's just my interpretation of the Manchester bombing.
Thanks, Dan. If we just look along that, so the image with the faces is something that I received very recently from somebody who I haven't met yet, but who has been in touch with us because they know that we will be able to facilitate, showing people's work like this. So I've never spoken to him, but he's sending me some stuff through. So this is one of those pieces, and I'd be really interested to know a bit more about that. Hopefully we will get that opportunity to do so, particularly now that quite a few of the prisons have got phone lines in, so people are able to make contact if they've got our contact details and talk to us about what they could get involved in. If we just step back, there's one of Ashley's there which we've already Ashley's talked about. I'm not sure if that one was shown when he was showing us.
Have these guys seen the animation that I did of the people's artwork?
Sorry, Kieran?
Have these guys seen the animation that I did for the exhibition
of
the guys' artwork?
I'm not sure, but it's currently on show in the cell, so people will be able to film it and put it online. The one on the right, the shoe, the trainers, that was a piece was made from wood cut out, and that was done at HMP Glen Parva Young Offenders Prison before that was knocked down. And the comment on there is, "Don't judge me until you've walked a mile in my shoes," which is what the guy who made it wanted to get across. So that was actually a big piece of wood cut out, and it was fixed to the wall of the prison, and it stayed there until the place was pulled down. And I think it might have even survived that and be at HMP Leicester now. So we have a look at any of the other pieces. So the The tattoo illustrations, the one on the left is from somebody who's made contact with us recently. Again, I haven't met him, but he's been in regular contact and he's started to send through his work. The one to the right of that is from the same person that did the faces. Again, I don't know much about it, other than it's really good, and I'd like to see what else he can do. The piece to the right of that was an interesting one. It's originally a tattoo design, I think. And the guy that did that, he'd been involved in music projects with Simon Bland for a long time. And we had been talking to him while he'd been doing the music project, but he didn't tell us that he could draw till about the last week before we left. And we said that we had an exhibition that was going to be going up. So he produced all these incredible drawings that we had no idea he could do. So that was brilliant. There's probably quite a few of his pieces in this exhibition. And then the one on the end is a painting of somebody practicing music in a cell. I can't remember if that is a self-portrait or if it was of somebody's cellmate. And it's quite old now. You can see by the TV, the style of TV, that it was done a few years ago. Does anyone have any questions about any other specific pieces, or does anyone want to ask these guys about their experiences and their artwork? Kira, did you want to mention how some of these have been incorporated into animation?
Yeah, so the one that we're looking directly at in the middle is actually the start of one of the animations. So basically, me and Kieran received a load of artwork. Where was it from? Stockton and H&P Leicester, wasn't it? Yeah. And we basically just went through them all, scanned them in, and then I ended up making 3 animations that were shown in the Unlocked 2 exhibition last year. Unfortunately, it didn't last very long, but I think it's playing on the TV in the prison cell now that we built there. Yeah.
Thanks.
And there was 3. There was one of just artwork, one that was combined artwork and letters and poems and stuff, and then there was one that was just poems and letters written from prisoners.
Yeah. The piece through the prison window cell, or I think it was one of the classrooms. That's a particularly good painting by somebody who has. They exhibited lots of artwork in the last exhibition that we had, including this, and managed to sell quite a few paintings on the opening night, which was brilliant. So this was something where he wanted to show what it was like from that side of being, on that side of the prison bars, and the way that he captured the light and the detail of the prisoners was excellent.
Yeah, this painting in person is absolutely crazy, isn't it?
Yeah. We've got quite a few of his pieces still here, actually.
I think the lime is his, isn't it?
Yeah, the lime, that was from H&P Stockton, as far as I know.
That was the one they chose to put in the Leicester Mercury article. One of them.
Yeah, it had quite a bit of coverage.
Yeah.
Some of these, they didn't really have any particular specific meaning behind them. People would sometimes just draw and paint because they want to draw and paint things, and that's equally valid. And there's been some really, really nice pieces produced. Not necessarily during the session. Sometimes people will go away and do something and come back and carry on with it during the session while we're there. And it's always good when people can take stuff away with them to actually, to work on in their own time, if they're allowed to do that, because it means then that they're not waiting a week or 2 weeks for us to come back and be able to run the sessions again. So I think that pretty much covers most of this. We've had hundreds and hundreds of pieces over the years that we've shown in various exhibitions online and here in the building. If anybody wants to get in touch about any of these, just drop us a message. And if anyone else has got any more questions for the artists here, we'll take those now. Okay, I think it looks like we don't have any more questions. So thanks very much, guys, for showing us around.
There's a question from Victoria Knight in the chat. How does it feel to see all this together?
Yeah, would anyone like to respond to that? Darren?
Oh, sorry, can you repeat that again, please?
Victoria Knight asked, how does it feel to see all of this together, the exhibition?
It feels quite good, to be honest. When you're incarcerated, and you I met Kieran in HMP Leicester, and someone says to me, "Do you want to come to the art class?" And I said, "Nah, not really. I've been to other art classes, and we're all the same. Like, you have to sit there and do what they want to do." And they're saying, "Nah, this is totally different." So I turned up, spoke to Kieran, said, "Listen, I've only got a couple of rules, and that's not to be rude, don't steal nothing, and just get on and try and get on with everybody." So I started doing that, and I started doing other things, other projects, and obviously Kieran says to me, "Look, when you're released, is there a possibility you could stay in touch with us and all that?" So that's what I did do, and I spoke to my probation officer, and I've been on the project for nearly 5 years now. So seeing where it's came from to this now, I'm chuffed, I'm pleased, I'm excited where it can actually possibly go from here.
Thanks, Darren. And one other thing that we haven't discussed on this conference today, which I think is definitely something that I would like to mention, is that the steering group, we now have a steering group of people with lived experience of the justice system, and all of you guys are involved in that, and it is hugely helpful in moving forward with these kind of projects. Your input, your ideas, and your suggestions and your knowledge is absolutely invaluable. So we really do appreciate all of your input into this steering group so far, and we hope that we would really like to carry on working with you guys as closely as we can. So thanks for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you very much to all of the artists who've taken part in this project over the last 3 years, and thank you very much, Kieran, for showing us that excellent gallery of work. There's so much inspiration there, and I think it's really wonderful to be able to wrap up this particular presentation by spending so long looking at the contributions of individual artists. So we're joined again by Victoria Knight, and I think, Victoria, it's appropriate if you have some of the closing words today.
Okay. It's been brilliant, and I hope our audience has enjoyed hearing about, I think, this very unique project, and I think the collaborative co-creation, co-production messages are very clear and evident. And I don't know, Kieran, whether or not that was your intention to work like that, but clearly the narratives that we've heard and the responses that we've had from people along the way value that approach to facilitating that wonderful exhibition, and to hear from the people that were involved, the artists themselves, and that you should all be very proud. It'd be nice if we could, continue this conversation and perhaps return to it in a different format, hopefully together at some stage, to sort of celebrate the work. But I think there are some key messages that have come out of today, certainly for me, and the power that hope has in penal settings, and how important that is to enabling people to get on with their lives, or attempt to get on with their lives. And it's still work in progress, isn't it? And that soft touch has had a significant role in supporting people's aspirations, goals, even if they're really, really small. And as you said, Kieran, the volume of work that's been produced over the years, what's going to happen to this work? I think there might be some questions about what's going to happen. Is it returned to the artists, or has that been mentioned? Forgive me, I had to dip out to go and get my children. What's going to happen to the artwork, Kieran? You're on mute.
Sorry. We aim to get people's artwork back to them if they want us to send it to them. One of the difficulties we've found is that people give us a lot of artwork, and then their circumstances change, and they haven't got a suitable place to take their work home, or whether it's going to get lost or damaged. So we have stored quite a bit. We still have quite a lot here, and Ashley has been storing his whole portfolio here at Soft Touch for a long time, which is quite a scary thing, because it had previously been locked in the vaults of Leicester Museum and was handled only with white gloves and in a temperature controlled environment, which I'd like to say that we've got, but we've got a big cupboard that it's in. But also we've sometimes artwork sells, and then we have to make sure that we get it to the buyer and make sure that the people get paid, the artists get paid as well. It is a difficulty. Storing increasing volumes of artwork, and sometimes things are really big, which is it's tricky, but we do what we can.
Okay, thank you. Jermaine, did you want to say something?
Yeah, just touching on something what you said, Victoria, about how soft touch help people to shape their lives and stuff. Like I did mention earlier, I created my own logo at Soft Touch, and I think that was just over 3 years ago now, and since there it's just manifested and kept going to the point where I've got my own business and all sorts. So yeah, Soft Touch really do help to change lives.
Fantastic. And that you're still sort of committed to working with Soft Touch as well to carry on that good work for others, I'm assuming, as well, Jermaine.
100%. Obviously, I've moved away from Leicester now, but I still stay in contact with Soft Touch, and we still co-produce and work together as and where relevant and convenient. So it's a pleasure and an honour.
Fantastic. Well, we'll call it a day then, folks. Thanks so much for everyone that's participated today, and I hope our listeners, viewers have enjoyed hearing about your project, and I think there are some key messages to other practitioners and artists out there as well, and such a fascinating landscape to operate within, and how Soft Touch and you guys have overcome all those barriers to produce that wonderful work. Well done, everyone. I feel very proud of you all and I feel very privileged, probably along with Ben and all the other researchers that have been involved, and the other, to be privileged to, you know, be welcomed in to see the project develop. Okay, thanks so much, everyone. Do get in touch with us, and we can put you in touch with the right people. We'll share the slides from the presentations. I don't know about the sort of virtual conference, the virtual exhibition. I don't know what your plans are, guys. Hopefully we can have a face-to-face exhibition at some stage as well. So that's it for now. Thanks so much to everyone that's contributed today, and we'll hope to see you soon. Take care, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.